there's not too many Canadian companies that experience that type of growth that quickly, especially during a pandemic. So it was kind of something that was unique.
Hello, and welcome to Sink or Swim, a weekly podcast brought to you by Rentsync, where we take a deep dive into the prop tech, multifamily, and rental housing industry. In each episode, we uncover the technologies and strategies used to help overcome operational challenges and increase the value of your multifamily investments. So let's get into our conversation today. Welcome back to Sink or Swim. I'm your host, Nicolina Savelli, and this episode is a little different from how we normally do things on the podcast. It's actually a bittersweet farewell episode where we say goodbye to one of our hosts of Sink or Swim. This happens sometimes in the podcast world, and it's really nothing to be too worried about. We will carry on, and we will still create great content, although just a little different from its inception, with host Mitch Fanning at the helm. So today, I have the final honor of interviewing Mitch on the show, which we've done in the past. But this time we'll be chatting about his hosting journey, his plans for the future, and what this means for the podcast going forward. Welcome to the show, Mitch.
Thank you. It's great to be back, and really the honor is all mine.
So, this conversation, as much as it's to let our audience know why they'll no longer hear your voice, and maybe they will, but not in the same capacity. It's also a way for us to talk about the future of the show and what's ahead now that you won't be having your regular scheduled kind of episodes coming forward. But first, I want to say, Mitch, thank you for dedicating your time and energy to this show over the past year and doing as many interviews as you have and helping us build a really great following of subscribers who count on these interviews for sound advice in multifamily and rental housing. And I wanted to say I did have someone who said that they would prefer listening to Sink or Swim over the Joe Rogan podcast. So, that's
really?
If that's not a review.
How much were they paying us?
They weren't paying us anything. They were a subscriber. They are a listener. They contacted someone on our sales side and said that they listen to us regularly. We're inspiring them, and they would 100% prefer to listen to this show over Joe Rogan. So, all
right. Well, Joe Rogan, if you're listening to this,
yeah,
that's really amazing. That's really amazing.
Yeah, that was great. And I will say our subscriber base has grown significantly. I know that we both have our own personal podcasts, and in the short period of time that we've had this show going, I will say that our subscribers have escalated a lot quicker than my personal podcast did on its inception. So it's great to see that. And this is why I really wanted to have this episode, is because I know people are listening to this regularly, and I don't want them to be disappointed when they don't hear you anymore. And I don't want this to appear like someone just ghosted and ran away from the podcast, because there is legitimate reasons why, Mitch, you're not going to be hosting. And really, that doesn't mean that the content won't suffer. It's not going to suffer. It's just going to be different voices in your headphones.
Absolutely.
So that's it.
Yeah. Thank you. It was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot, and I agree. It's going to just continually get better.
Yeah. So, let's chat about you a bit. And you came to Rentsync 2.5 years ago, I believe, around 2.5 years ago.
Just over 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And kind of what you feel your biggest achievements as the VP of marketing here has been, and really what's in store for your next career move.
Well, I obviously I came here. I knew Jason, one of the co-founders. He asked me to come, meet the rest of the executive team at that time. And as they say, the rest is history. There's been a lot of kind of personal achievements, but I think I'd like to reframe that by saying I've got some fond moments, or some of my fondest moments, or things that I'm proud of. Really, just the team that I built, and some of the people that I brought on, which I think have played a huge role and have been really pivotal. Obviously, bringing on yourself was something that I'm proud of. And, this week I've had a chance to talk to the team, and really just knowing that in some small way, I was able to kind of help, make them better, or, at least give them some advice along the way. So that's really the thing that I'm most proud of. I think overall, in addition to that, just being a part of extreme growth that we experienced over the last few years. I mean, I came on the team when we were 34, and this is episode 36. It's too bad it didn't kind of coincide with number 34, but now we're almost close to 100. So there's not too many Canadian companies that experience that type of growth that quickly, especially during a pandemic. So it was kind of something that was unique. So I'll always remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there are a lot of reasons why we experienced that growth, but I think that at the core, it was a commitment by just everyone who was part of the original kind of team to make sure that this wasn't something that was going to make us backslide in any way, that we were going to power through this. And I think that power actually was more significant than we expected, and making the right choices right out the gate at the beginning were instrumental. And I know that you were part of that kind of plan. So I will say that, you were definitely instrumental in that process and getting us through the initial humps of the pandemic and going remote. So I would say that was a big achievement for you, and something that you could bring throughout your career and talk to. So I guess the next question is, what's in store for your next career move? So this has been a hush hush. So everyone listening, this is your source. This is your TMZ right now.
Yeah. I mean, so throughout your life, opportunities are presented, and it was a natural progression in my career, and so I'll be joining an advisory firm or consulting firm that's called How to SaaS. And this is actually the first time I've kind of given the spiel, but we'll be advising private equity firms and their portfolio companies or their software companies that they own on how to scale and to ultimately drive revenue and enterprise value. So it'll be a lot of fun. I'll be kind of working with many Rentsyncs at a time, and so that's the cool part. So. But I also feel that this is not a goodbye. It's just a goodbye for now. So
yeah, that's fair. You're still local to the company, so I'm sure everyone's going to see you around here and there. So you can't leave us like that. Now, not having you part of the team obviously means not having you part of the show, but obviously you were a big advocate for launching this podcast and pulling the vision together. So how do you feel about where we've been? And what are your hopes and dreams for the future of the show? And this is more advice for me moving forward. Your last piece of advice for me and mentorship for me. What's your hope for the show?
I mean, how do I feel? I mean, in a word, good. My hope for the show is, don't mess it up.
Okay. All right.
But in all seriousness, I mean, I was actually looking at just some basic stats this morning, and we were talking before the show. We've had 100% growth in downloads year over year since the inception. So we're talking like from June to June of this year. Yeah, just continue putting out good content and for the industry and evolve and get better, which I know you will. And I know there's some interesting things that we're looking to do for the show. So that's it. That's all.
I will share another little tidbit. I got a notification saying that we're actually number 18 on the marketing podcast in Canada. So we'd always been in the top 50, but we were more at the top line of the top 50. Now we're getting inching closer and closer to the top 10. So it's really cool to see that, which is, yeah, I'll share that. And hopefully next time we talk, we'll be even closer to that. So just to give you some context, I will not screw up. I will continue on.
Not bad for a podcast that doesn't have marketing in its title.
Yeah, not bad, eh? Yeah. I know. Now, so much of our show over the past year, we've talked about working remotely. And I want to get a sense of how you feel the multifamily industry is handling kind of this digital first transformation we've been going through. Because you've asked a lot of people on the show what they've been thinking and what they've been doing. So how do you feel we've handled it? And what's your wish moving forward?
I mean, I think, this industry has adjusted nicely using technology. I mean, it's something that we've continually, mentioned on this podcast. And so I think that's just a continuing theme. We've adopted things like virtual tours, et cetera. My wish, I mean, I think, as rent rates and vacancy rates come back to kind of pre-COVID levels, I guess my hope is that this industry continues to innovate. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's great. I expected that answer from you. So now this might be a controversial question, but I do think that it's an important one. I know there were a lot of great guests, and I think that this will be a hard question for you to answer. But who do you think was your favorite guest and why? And there might be a few, but maybe there's someone who you can more significantly answer why that person was your favorite.
Interested in being a guest on Sink or Swim? Or have a really great idea for an episode? Email us at podcast@rentsync.com.
Obviously, there was, I interviewed a lot of great people. I said this before in another podcast, but I think I really enjoyed episode 1 the most. And it was about celebrating the 10 years with the co-founders at Rentsync, formerly LWS, Jason, David, Mike, and Max. Yeah, I still feel like that was kind of maybe it was nostalgic reasons, but I still feel like that was kind of the most memorable in as far as I'm concerned.
Good answer. To follow that up, who do you wish you got the chance to interview, but you didn't on the show?
I thought about this one, and I was, and then it just hit me like lightning last night. Steve Cowan, our CEO. We've been trying to schedule him and I. We've had some. We've both been busy, and there's been some timing issues. But I will leave that in your capable hands.
That will be happening.
Nail
with
down
me
Steve
soon.
and get him on. So he'll be a good guest, I'm sure. And I think I feel like September might be a good month.
That's where I'm going with it. Yeah, for sure. So we can look forward to you can look forward to hearing that episode. So yeah, I know that was about a month of kind of back and forth rescheduling, and then and then you decided to leave us. So, but that's okay. So, any lessons you've learned over the last year being involved in this podcast that you wish you knew before? I know you had your own, so I know you had some lessons going into it, but there was anything specific for this kind of business podcast that you wish you knew before?
I mean, I'm doing 25 shows. I've learned a lot, right? There's no question. But I think maybe the biggest lesson I've learned is just how resilient this industry is. It may sound like kind of a simple answer, but it went through a lot. It just seems like a, steady Eddie. It's just come through the pandemic pretty well. So
good, cool, great.
Yeah.
And finally, do you have any, now not finally at the end of this episode, this is the end of the core questions. Do you have any parting words for me as you pass on the podcast hosting torch? And I think you already told me, don't screw it up, but do you have anything else?
I was going to say, again, just to emphasize that point, don't mess up. I'm just kidding. Just, you'll do great.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Now, obviously, I can't leave this episode without doing one final quickfire round with you. It might be the last quickfire round of the podcast. We'll see. We may need to integrate it somewhere else with another host, co-host. We'll see what they do with it. But
so what you're telling me is you're going to retire the quickfire round.
Maybe it'll just take a break. Maybe it'll go on a hiatus. Maybe it'll be one of those like who's someone who's retired like 5 different times in sports. We'll do that. It'll come back. It'll play out again, and then we'll bring it back, and we'll see. But definitely with you, it's the last one. So Mitch, are you ready for your rapid fire round?
I'm ready.
Okay. What's the first career you dreamed of having as a kid?
This one's easy. Astronaut.
No way. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. All right. Yeah. Awesome.
I realized that there was science involved in it.
And that wasn't your forte?
Yeah. I should have been a test pilot, and that way I could have just been a pilot. So
yeah, that's fair. Mine was being a civil engineer. That was my first.
Really?
Yep. That was my first.
That's very responsible.
It was very responsible. And you know why? Because pragmatic. I have a Capricorn mother who pushed me towards engineering because she knew that it was the responsible career to take. And then I realized I was horrendous in physics. Horrendous. So I was like, that career dream has been dashed. But that's just something you have to accept as an adult, that you just can't. As much as your parents have dreams for you, sometimes those dreams don't come true. So number 2, if you could instantly become an expert in something, what would it be?
That's an easy one as well. Drummer.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to be buying some electronic drums very shortly. I've decided.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to actually take action on that.
Is this something that you've done in the past that you never kind of fully got into? Or is this like a brand new thing that you want to get into?
I don't know if you have these things where you feel like you actually could be good at it.
Okay.
You've never really, and I've dabbled in it, but I'm going to commit. I'm going to get I can't get a real drum set because my wife would absolutely kill me. And probably so with my neighbors, but electronic drum set that I can kind of put on some headphones and just, go down and kind of, in the free time that I would have to learn it. So that's one.
Okay, cool. Number 3, what does success mean to you?
Success, I would say, what it means to me. I would say, making others better and improving yourself through continuous improvement.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good answer. Number 4, at what job would you be terrible at? Which I really want to know your answer to. What job would you be terrible at?
There's probably lots of jobs I'd be terrible at, but I would say anything that has like extensive manual labor.
Okay.
I would say I'm resigning the fact that I would be terrible at it.
Yeah. I think you've been working on your home office for like quite some time. So I feel like it's do not hire me to like build out or remodel your room. It'll take a year and a half. It'll take a year and a half to do. That's fair. Okay. Number 5, if you could spend a day in someone else's shoes, whose would they be and why?
This one's easy too. My dog Barley.
Mm-hmm. You've said this to us before. Yes.
Yeah. I would come back as him if I'm reincarnated.
Okay. Cause he's got
a great life.
Great life. Yeah. Sometimes I think that about my dog too. I'm just like, if I would do anything to get fed the food that you get and the walks that you get. He goes out more than I do now.
Just hang out, just sleep it'd be great.
Great. And finally, what is a dream you have that you have yet to achieve?
So this is one of my long-term goals, and maybe I'll do it over the next 5 years, but to climb one of the 7 summits. And one of them, just, for context, would be Kilimanjaro, but I'm thinking something like Aconcagua, which is in South America, which is the second highest mountain in the world, but it's like a long hike. It's not.
Okay.
I'm not going to be like traversing crazy like mountain climbing, like doing technical mountain climbing, but
it has like a natural elevation to it.
Yeah. It takes about 21 days to climb.
Jeez. Wow. You've done others.
No.
Have you? You haven't yet. Okay.
No.
Cool. All right.
So that's one.
It's achievable. I think I can see you doing it. So it's not a pipe dream. All right. Well, Mitch, it's been a pleasure chatting with you today. But before you go, I think because you're going to have a new email, a new way to be contacted, what's the best way for people to contact you? Because, we'll have to deactivate your Rentsync email.
So to be clear, it's not going to be deactivated.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be transferred. So, obviously LinkedIn, or, you're going to be able to find me at howtosass.com eventually. Right. So yeah. And one more thing I just want to say, this has been a blast. And I've really enjoyed my time here at Rentsync, and I've really enjoyed doing the show, and I've really enjoyed doing these episodes with you. And overall, it's been great. And, I look forward to seeing this thing, if it continues, to see it continuing it better and onward.
You'll continue to subscribe.
I'll continue subscribing to it. Yes.
You hit unsubscribe. No. Well, thank you, Mitch, for taking the time to join me on this episode, for your dedication to this podcast and all you've done and taught our marketing team during your tenure, which feels like a lot longer, because I've only been here a year and a half, feels like a lot longer than that in terms of career growth. So I thank you for that. And maybe one day you'll be back, and maybe this isn't goodbye, but really see you later. And until next time, keep swimming. Okay, we did as well as we could there.
Absolutely. All right.
Take care, Mitch. I'll talk to you hopefully sooner than later.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thanks, Nick.
Bye.
You've reached the end of another episode of Sink or Swim. Make sure to visit us at rentsync.com/podcast to access show notes, key takeaways, and where you can sign up to our newsletter to receive free bonus content. If you found value in this show, please also remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode. Thanks for listening.